sitting in my formal parlor at my house at the Molly Brown House Museum at 1340 Pennsylvania. And the house is just absolutely phenomenal, some of the things that they have done this year, because this year we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of when women could vote. And there's a lot of brave women out there that continue to fight for the women's vote. So I hope you have an opportunity sometime to come to visit the museum, because we have lots to show you. But today I want to tell you a story, a book called Brave Girl. And it's a story about Clara Lemlich. A steamship pulls into the harbor carrying hundreds of immigrants and a surprise for New York City. The surprise is dirt poor, just 5 feet tall, and hardly speaks a word of English. Her name is Clara Lemlich. This girl's got grit and she's going to prove it. Look out, New York. Clara knows in her bones what is right and what is wrong. What's wrong begins a few weeks after her family had moved into the tenement in America. No one will hire Clara's father. They will, however, hire Clara. That's right, Clara. Companies are hiring thousands of immigrant girls to make blouses, coats, nightgowns, and others, women's clothing. They earn only a few dollars a month, but it helps pay for food and rent. So instead of carrying books to school, many girls would carry sewing machines to work. Clara becomes a garment worker. From dawn to dusk, she locked up in a factory. Rows and rows of young women bent over their tables, stitching collars, sleeves, and cuffs as fast as they can. Hurry up, the bosses would yell. Rajatalif hisses Clara's machine. The sunless room is stuffy from all the bodies crammed inside. There are 2 filthy toilets, 1 sink, and 3 towels to share with 300 girls. Clara learns the rules. If you're a few minutes late, you lose half day's pay. If you prick your finger and bleed on the cloth, you're fined. If it happens a second time, you're fired. The doors are locked and you're inspected every night before you leave to be sure you haven't stolen anything from the factory. She wants to read, she wants to learn. At the end of her shift, though her eyes hurt from straining in the gaslight and her back hurts from hunching over the sewing machine, she walks to the library. She fills her empty stomach with a single glass of milk and goes to school at 9. When she gets home in a late evening, she sleeps only a few hours before rising again. As the weeks grind by, Clara makes friends with the other factory girls. At lunch, they share stories and secrets as they were in school where they belong. Clara smolders with anger, not just for herself, but for all the factory girls, working like slaves. This was not the America she had imagined. The men at the factory tell her they've been trying to get the workers to team up in a union. Then their strike, refuse to work until the bosses treat them better, but the men don't think the ladies are tough enough. Not tough enough because they're girls. Oh yes they are, Clara knows it. She'll show them. From then on, at the sewing tables and on the street corners, Clara urges the girls to fight for their rights. When the seamstresses are overworked, she says, strike! When they're underpaid, she says, strike! When they're punished for speaking up, she cries, strike! And guess what the girls do? Each time Clara leads a walkout, the boss fires her. Each time she pickets, her life is in danger. The bosses hire men to beat her, and the others strike her. The police arrest her 7 times. They break 6 of her ribs, but they can't break her spirit. It's shatterproof. Clara hides her bruises from her parents, and a few days later she's on the picket line again, and the other girls think, if she can do it, we can do it. For weeks the small strikes go on, but the bosses find other young women to do the work for the same low pay and long hours. We must do something bigger, think Clara and the other union leaders. Something huge, a giant strike at every garment factories in the city. The union holds a meeting. Throngs of workers pack the seats, the aisles, the walls, the hall thrums with excitement. Clara listens to speech after speech. The speakers, mostly men, want everyone to be careful. 2 hours pass, not one recommends a general strike. Finally, the most powerful union leader in the country goes up to the podium. Not even he proposes an action. So Clara does. That's right, Clara, she called out from the front of the hall. The crowd lifts her to the stage where she shouts in Yiddish, I have no further patience for talk. I move that we go on a general strike. And she starts the largest walkout of women workers, it's a lot of W's, in U.S. history. The next morning, New York City is stunned by the sight of thousands of young women streaming the factories. One newspaper calls it an army, others call it a revolt. It's a revolt of girls, for some are only 12 years old, and the rest are barely out of their teens. In the coming weeks, Clara is called a hero. She lights up chilly union halls with her fiery pep talks. Her singing lifts the spirits of the picketers. When a group of thugs approach her, she yells, stand fast, girls. And they do. All winter long in the bitter cold, in their cheap, thin coats, tired and starving and scared, the girls walk alongside the men on the icy sidewalks of the picket line. They spill out of the union halls, blocking the roads, filling street corners and public squares. Newspapers write stories about them. College girls raise money for them. Rich women swathe them in fur coats, picket with the factory girls. By the time the strike is over, hundreds of bosses agree to let their staff form unions. They shorten the work week and raise salaries. The strike emboldens thousands of women to walk out of garment factories in Philadelphia and Chicago. And the strike convinces Clara to keep fighting for the rights of workers. Her throat is hoarse, her feet are sore, and she helped thousands of people, proving that in America, wrongs can be righted, warriors can wear skirts and blouses, and the bravest hearts may beat in girls only 5 feet tall. Clara was quite a lady, and I'm sure all women at that time were quite the ladies to fight for women's rights. I hope you do take the time to come down and visit my home. I was very involved with women's rights all the way up to the time in which we received the vote. So, I appreciate you coming, and please come down and visit my home. Thank you very much.